You wake up and within 60 seconds it starts. Not the phone, not the notifications. Something quieter. Something worse. The scan. You scan the room, the relationship, the interaction ahead, and without even thinking about it, you start calibrating. Who do I need to be right now so that everyone stays comfortable? What version of me keeps the peace? What does this person need from me so they don't leave? And here is the costly mistake most people never see. You call this being good. You call this being nice. You call this being a decent person. But this isn't goodness. This is a surrender. You are not being kind. You are being strategic. And everyone around you can feel it, even if they can't name it. Here is the thesis, and I want you to sit with it. Respect is not something you earn by being agreeable. Respect is something you command by being undeniably yourself. If you want people to treat you differently, you don't need to change them. You need to stop abandoning yourself to keep them. Most people never get this. They spend years, decades, trying to become more likable, more accommodating, more easygoing, and they still don't feel respected. They still don't feel seen. They still walk into rooms and feel like they are performing a role rather than living a life. And the reason is simple, even if it's painful to hear. You taught people how to treat you. Every time you swallowed your opinion to avoid friction, every time you said yes when you meant no, every time you softened a truth so it would go down easier, you sent a signal. And the signal was this. My needs are negotiable. My discomfort is acceptable. My approval of you matters more than my own integrity. People heard that signal. And they responded to it. Not because they are cruel, but because you trained them. The truth nobody wants to say out loud is this. Being nice is not the same as being good. And being good has nothing to do with being nice. Let me explain what I mean, because this distinction changes everything. There is a pattern that runs through a lot of people's lives, and maybe through yours. It usually starts early. Maybe you learned, somewhere in childhood, that conflict was dangerous. That when people around you were unhappy, the ground beneath you felt unstable. That the safest thing you could do was be good, be quiet, be helpful, be whatever the situation needed you to be. So you developed a strategy. If I am nice enough, useful enough, accommodating enough, no one will be upset. No one will leave. No one will punish me. And for a child, that strategy makes sense. It is a survival mechanism. It is intelligent. But here is the problem. You are not a child anymore, and you are still running the same software. This is what some would call nice guy syndrome, though it applies far beyond men. It is a strategy for abandonment avoidance. That is all it is. It is not goodness. It is not virtue. It is fear wearing a mask of kindness. And it is costing you everything. It is costing you your voice. It is costing you your relationships, because the relationships you build on accommodation are not relationships with you. They are relationships with a performance. People are not connected to you. They are connected to the version of you that never pushes back, never disagrees, never asks for anything. And deep down, you know this. That is why you still don't feel whole. That is why you still don't feel like you, even when everyone around you seems satisfied. Here's what nobody tells you. When you suppress your own needs to keep others happy, those needs do not disappear. They do not dissolve. They do not quietly evaporate because you decided to be selfless. They go underground. They ferment. They turn into something toxic. They turn into resentment. They turn into passive aggression. They turn into the slow, quiet withdrawal that poisons every relationship you were trying to preserve. Think about it. Think about the last time you said yes when you wanted to say no. What happened inside you? Maybe nothing at first. Maybe you felt a brief flicker of pride. I am being generous. I am being a good friend, a good partner, a good colleague. But then what? A few days pass. And you start to feel it. That tightness in your chest. That low-grade irritation that you can't quite explain. You start to notice every little thing the other person does wrong. You start keeping score, even though you would never admit it. You did this for them, and they didn't even notice. They didn't thank you. They didn't reciprocate. They just took it, as if it were nothing, because you presented it as nothing. This is what happens when you live by covert contracts. A covert contract is an agreement you made with someone that they never signed. You decided, silently, that if you were good enough, giving enough, accommodating enough, they would take care of you. They would meet your needs without you having to ask. They would see your sacrifice and repay it with love, with attention, with respect. But they never agreed to this contract. They don't even know it exists. And so they fail to fulfill it, over and over, and each failure deepens your resentment, even as you smile and say it's fine. It's not fine. And you know it. The Stoics understood something about this that most people still don't. Epictetus, who was born into slavery and beaten so severely his leg was permanently damaged, understood something about power that most people who grow up in comfort never grasp. He said, essentially, that there are things in your control and things not in your control, and your entire suffering comes from confusing the two. Your domain is your own response. Your domain is your own character. Your domain is what you choose to do with what is given to you. It is never someone else's character. It is never someone else's behavior. It is never whether they appreciate you, whether they notice your sacrifice, whether they reciprocate your kindness. And here is where this becomes radical. Most people hear this and think it means acceptance. They think Stoicism is about just letting things go. But that is a profound misreading. What Epictetus is actually saying is this. Stop trying to control what is not yours to control, and start taking absolute responsibility for what is. Stop trying to manage other people's perceptions of you. Stop trying to engineer their behavior through your niceness. That is their domain, not yours. Your domain is your own integrity. Your domain is your own honesty. Your domain is whether you show up as yourself or as a performance. So here is lesson 1. Stop trying to change other people by being nice to them. Your niceness is not a tool for controlling their behavior. It is not a lever you pull to make them love you. It is not a strategy. If your kindness has an agenda, it is not kindness. It is manipulation. And the people around you can feel the manipulation, even when they can't articulate it. They feel the weight of your unspoken expectations. They feel the pressure of your covert contracts. And eventually, they pull away. Not because you were too good for them, but because being around someone who is constantly performing goodness is exhausting. Being around someone who never shows you who they actually are is not a relationship. It is a transaction. So the first shift is this. You stop. You stop managing other people's experience of you. You stop trying to be what they need you to be. You stop abandoning your own perspective to keep the peace. And you start asking yourself a different question. Not what do they need from me? But what do I actually believe? What do I actually want? Who am I when I am not performing? This is not selfishness. This is the beginning of self-respect. Now, let me be clear about something, because this is where most people get derailed. Self-respect does not mean becoming cold or aggressive. It does not mean swinging from one extreme to the other, from doormat to dictator. The Stoics were not about dominance. They were about alignment. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, the Emperor of Rome, wrote to himself privately, over and over, about the importance of being a human being first. About treating people with dignity. About not being harsh. But here is the critical difference. Marcus treated people with dignity not because he was afraid of conflict, not because he needed their approval, not because he was trying to earn love. He treated people with dignity because it was his nature. Because it was the right thing to do. Because his virtue was not contingent on their reaction. That is the difference between being good and being nice. Being nice is conditional. Being nice is strategic. Being nice says, I will be agreeable if you will be approving. Being good is unconditional. Being good says, I will be honest, I will be kind, I will be just, regardless of what you do with it. Being nice is about managing your reaction. Being good is about maintaining my integrity. Do you see the difference? One is about you. The other is about them. And this brings us to lesson 2. Learn to say what you want without softening it, without apologizing for it, without managing the other person's reaction to it. Here is what nobody tells you about communication. When you soften your words to protect someone else's feelings, you are not being kind. You are being dishonest. And dishonesty is not kindness. It is a form of contempt, because it says, I don't trust you enough to handle the truth. And it says, I value your comfort more than I value our connection. Most people go through life apologizing for having needs. They apologize for asking for what they want. They apologize for taking up space. They apologize for having an opinion. And they don't even realize they are doing it. Listen to yourself next time you make a request. Listen to how many qualifiers you attach. Just, if it's not too much trouble, I'm sorry but, I don't want to bother you but, I know you're busy but. Each one of these qualifiers is a small abandonment of yourself. Each one says, my need is not important enough to stand on its own. I must dress it up in apologies so you don't reject me for having it. The Stoic approach is different. The Stoic approach is direct. Not harsh. Not aggressive. Direct. You say what you mean. You say what you need. And then you let the other person respond. You do not manage their reaction. You do not absorb their discomfort. You do not preemptively shrink yourself so they never have to feel anything unpleasant. This is harder than it sounds. I know it is harder than it sounds, because you have spent your entire life doing the opposite. You have spent your entire life reading the room, adjusting your tone, anticipating resistance, and heading it off before it arrives. You have become so skilled at this that you don't even know you are doing it. It feels natural. It feels like being considerate. But it is not considerate. It is self-abandonment dressed up as politeness. So here is the practice. And I want you to actually do this, not just nod along. The next time you need to say something, state it cleanly. No softening. No apologizing. No managing. Just the truth, spoken plainly, with respect. Not with aggression. Not with cruelty. With respect. But also without apology. Without the padding that you have been trained to add. If you want something, say it. I want this. Not, I was wondering if maybe you might possibly consider, if it's not too much trouble. I want this. If you believe something, say it. I think this. Not, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just my opinion. I think this. If you need to say no, say no. No. Not, I'll try, not, maybe, not, I'll see what I can do, not, I'm so sorry but I just can't. No. And then wait. Wait for the reaction. Do not rush in to fill the silence. Do not immediately add a justification. Do not explain yourself into the ground. Say the thing, and then let it stand. Let the other person sit with it. Let them have their reaction. Their reaction is their domain, not yours. You are not responsible for their comfort. You are responsible for your honesty. This will feel wrong at first. It will feel rude. It will feel selfish. It will feel like you are doing something dangerous. Because to the part of you that learned, long ago, that being yourself leads to rejection, this will feel like walking toward a fire. But you need to walk toward it. Because on the other side of that discomfort is the only thing that will ever make you feel whole. Authenticity. The experience of being yourself, fully, in the presence of another person, and discovering that the world does not end. The world does not end. People do not leave. The ones who do leave were never connected to you in the first place. They were connected to your performance. And the ones who stay, the ones who matter, they will respect you more, not less, for being direct. Because directness is a form of trust. It says, I trust you enough to tell you the truth. I respect you enough to believe you can handle it. Now, Lesson 3. This is the one that ties it all together. Setting boundaries is not aggression. Setting boundaries is self-respect. Most people hear the word boundary and they think wall. They think barrier. They think pushing people away. But that is not what a boundary is. A boundary is not a wall. A boundary is a definition. It is a clear statement of what is acceptable and what is not. It is not about controlling the other person. It is about defining yourself. Here is the truth nobody wants to say out loud. If you cannot say no, your yes means nothing. If you cannot refuse, your agreement is not a choice. It is a default. And people can feel the difference. When you say yes because you want to, it carries weight. It carries warmth. It carries genuine generosity. When you say yes because you are afraid to say no, it carries resentment. It carries obligation. It carries the slow poison of a covert contract. The Stoics understood boundaries at the deepest level. Zeno, the founder of Stoicism, was a merchant who lost everything in a shipwreck. He arrived in Athens with nothing. And instead of collapsing, instead of begging, instead of trying to be whatever people needed him to be so they would take him in, he walked into a bookstore and asked the bookseller where he could find a wise man. That is the act of someone who knows who he is, even when he has lost everything. That is the act of someone whose boundaries are internal, not external. He did not need circumstances to validate him. He did not need approval to know his direction. He had lost every material thing, and he still walked into that bookstore like he belonged there. Because he did. He belonged to himself. This is what boundaries really mean. They mean you belong to yourself. They mean your time, your energy, your attention, your body, your mind, these are yours. They are not public property. They are not resources for other people to consume at their discretion. They are yours to give, and yours to withhold, based on your own values, your own judgment, your own sense of what is right. But here is what happens when you don't set boundaries. You become a resource. People come to you because you are easy. Not because they respect you. Because you are easy. You are the path of least resistance. You are the person who will always say yes, always accommodate, always absorb the inconvenience that no one else wants to absorb. And they will call this friendship. They will call it respect. They will call it appreciation. But it is none of those things. It is convenience. And convenience is not respect. So you need to learn the Stoic art of saying no without explanation. This is one of the most powerful practices you can develop. Saying no without a paragraph of justification. Saying no without 3 reasons and an apology and a counteroffer and a reassurance that you still care. Just no. Not no because I have this thing and I'm really sorry and I wish I could and maybe next time. Just no. Now, I can already hear the resistance rising in you. But won't people be upset? Won't they think I'm being difficult? Won't they pull away? And the answer to all of those questions is the same answer Epictetus would give you. That is their domain. Whether they are upset is their domain. Whether they pull away is their domain. Whether they think you are difficult is their domain. Your domain is whether you honor yourself. Your domain is whether you tell the truth. Your domain is whether you live with integrity or live in fear. And here is the paradox that changes everything. When you start saying no, when you start setting boundaries, when you start being direct about what you want and what you will not accept, the people who matter will not pull away. They will lean in. Because they will finally feel something real from you. They will finally meet you, not the performance of you. And the people who do pull away. Let them. They were never with you. They were with the convenience. And losing someone who was only with you for the convenience is not a loss. It is a clarification. This is what I mean by rewriting how people treat you. You are not rewriting their behavior. You are rewriting the terms of the relationship. You are no longer offering yourself as a resource to be consumed. You are offering yourself as a person to be respected. And the difference between those 2 things is the difference between a life of quiet resentment and a life of genuine connection. Let me bring this back to the thesis, because I want you to feel it, not just understand it. Respect is not something you earn by being agreeable. Respect is something you command by being undeniably yourself. Being undeniably yourself does not mean being loud. It does not mean being dominant. It does not mean being the center of every room. Some of the most respected people I have ever encountered are also the quietest. They don't need to announce themselves. They don't need to prove anything. They simply occupy their own space with such clarity that you can feel it. You know exactly who they are. And because they know who they are, you know too. That is the quiet authority that the Stoics embodied. Marcus Aurelius had absolute power. He could have done anything. He could have demanded worship, demanded comfort, demanded that everyone around him contort themselves to please him. Instead, he wrote reminders to himself, every morning, about what kind of person he wanted to be. Patient. Honest. Unaffected by praise or blame. He did not need the approval of others because he had given himself something more durable than approval. He had given himself a standard. And he held himself to it, not perfectly, but consistently. And that consistency, that quiet, private, daily commitment to his own values, is what made him someone worth respecting. That is what you are building. Not a performance. Not a strategy. A standard. An internal standard that does not bend when someone is displeased. An internal standard that does not collapse when someone threatens to leave. An internal standard that says, I will be kind, I will be fair, I will be honest, and I will not abandon myself to keep you comfortable. So let me give you the 3 lessons one more time, distilled. First, stop trying to change others through niceness. Your domain is your own character, not their reaction. If your kindness has an agenda, it is manipulation, not virtue. Be good, not nice. Be kind because it is your nature, not because you are trying to earn something. The difference is everything. Second, say what you want without softening it. State your needs, your opinions, your refusals, cleanly and directly. Do not manage the other person's reaction. Do not apologize for existing. Do not shrink yourself so others never have to feel uncomfortable. Your honesty is a gift, not a weapon, and it is a gift you have been withholding from everyone who actually deserves it. Third, set boundaries as an act of self-respect. Saying no is not aggression. It is definition. It tells people where you end and they begin. And if someone cannot tolerate your boundaries, that person cannot tolerate you. They can only tolerate your compliance. And your compliance is not you. Here is what happens when you start living this way. It will be uncomfortable at first. You will feel exposed. You will feel like you are doing something wrong. The part of you that learned decades ago that safety comes from accommodation will scream at you to stop. It will tell you that you are being selfish, that you are being difficult, that you are going to lose people. And you might. You might lose people. But here is what you will find. You will find that the people you lost were never actually with you. They were with the version of you that never pushed back, never disagreed, never asked for anything. And the people who remain, or who arrive, will be with you. The real you. And for the first time in your life, you will feel whole. Not because everyone is finally treating you right. But because you are finally treating yourself right. That is the shift. From seeking approval to commanding respect. From performing to being. From managing everyone else's experience to taking responsibility for your own. From nice to good. From compliant to self-respecting. Carl Jung called the parts of ourselves that we refuse to acknowledge the shadow. And for a lot of people, the shadow contains something unexpected. It contains the capacity to be firm. The capacity to be direct. The capacity to disappoint someone and survive it. These are not dark qualities. They are not cruelty. They are the natural expressions of a person who values themselves enough to tell the truth. But if you have spent your life suppressing them, they live in the shadow, and they feel dangerous. They feel like they belong to someone else, someone harsh, someone cold. They don't. They belong to you. And integrating them does not make you cold. It makes you whole. So here is what I want you to take from this. Not a list of tips. Not a set of rules. A recognition. The way people treat you is a mirror of how you treat yourself. If you abandon yourself constantly, people will abandon you constantly. If you do not respect your own needs, no one else will respect them. If you cannot say no, your yes will be taken for granted. This is not because people are cruel. It is because people respond to signals, and you have been sending the wrong ones for a long time. But here is the good news. You can change the signals. Not by changing other people. By changing yourself. By standing in your own ground. By speaking your own truth. By saying no when you mean no and yes when you mean yes. By being the same person in every room, regardless of who is in it. This is the Stoic path. Not a set of techniques for manipulating outcomes. A way of being that is so grounded, so internally consistent, that the world has no choice but to adjust to you, rather than you endlessly adjusting to the world. You trained people to treat you a certain way. You can retrain them. But first, you have to retrain yourself. You have to stop being the person who needs everyone's approval and start being the person who has their own. You have to stop outsourcing your worth and start generating it from within. And it starts with one moment. One moment where you feel the pull to soften, to apologize, to accommodate, to shrink, and instead, you hold. You hold your ground. You say what you mean. You stay who you are. And you let the chips fall. That moment will cost you something. It will cost you the comfort of compliance. But it will buy you something no amount of compliance ever could. It will buy you yourself. And once you have that, once you have yourself, you will discover something that all the people-pleasing in the world could never give you. You will discover that you do not need everyone to like you. You do not need everyone to approve. You do not need everyone to stay. You just need to be able to look at yourself, at the end of the day, and know that you were honest. That you were kind. That you were firm. That you were you. That is self-respect. Not a feeling. Not an affirmation. A practice. A daily, sometimes painful, always necessary practice of choosing yourself over the comfort of others. Not in a way that harms others. In a way that honors you. There is a difference, and you already know it in your bones. So stop being nice. Start being good. Stop seeking approval. Start commanding respect. Stop training people to overlook you. Start being impossible to overlook. Not by being louder. By being more real. The respect you have been chasing your entire life is not going to come from other people. It was never going to come from other people. It comes from the quiet, unshakable decision to be who you are, fully, without apology, without performance, without the constant managing of everyone else's experience of you. That decision is available to you right now. Not after you read another book. Not after you figure yourself out. Not after you become someone better. Right now. In the next conversation you have. In the next request you receive. In the next moment you feel the pull to abandon yourself. Hold. That is where respect begins. Not out there. In here. In the place you have been avoiding your whole life. In your own ground. Stand on it. Stay disciplined.